welcome to Just Crafting Around. Today we are going to do some Thanksgiving projects. We are going to take this cutting board and we are going to glue, we're going to use this right here, Thanksgiving theme. We're going to take it, we are going to use some medium, we're going to put it on the board, and then when we peel it off, the stain is going to get left on there. So I will tell you what you all need to do. You need a cutting board. We're going to beat it because it looks too good. I want it to look distressed and I want it to look old. So we are going to use a hammer. We're going to pound some nails in there. We're going to go outside. We're going to take some rocks and stuff and we're going to chip it up real good. Then where you see this right here, there's a hole through here and you can use this for the hanging part of it. So we're going to use some twine. If you have any old leather or anything at home, like an old shoelace or something leather, you can take that and put it on there. What I have at home and what I'm going to use is I have a shoelace from my dad's shoe. And that way I'm going to put it on here. It will remind me of my dad who's passed away, and he'll be with us during Thanksgiving then. You need some medium, which is going to do the transfer of the paper. We are going to need some sandpaper. Going to use an emery board. I went up to the local hardware store, the lumber yard, Harriet Lumber, and I bought the wood stain. It's called the pecan. So we're going to use that because we're going to stain it once we're done beating it. In order to stain it, you're going to need a rag, some gloves so that your hands don't get so dirty. We're going to use, or get stained I should say, we're going to use a foam brush to put the medium on. We also have some wax paper, we have some paper towels, and as always, don't forget the coffee. Okay, let's get started. What we're going to do first of all is we are going to take this outside and we are going to take some rocks and we're going to hit it up against the rocks because we want it to look old, kind of like my grandmother's board. I remember growing up, my grandma had a cutting board and I thought, I wonder why she keeps using that instead of getting a new one. It's so banged up. That was the best cutting board ever. So we're going to take this outside and we're going to bang it up a little bit.
Valley Telecommunications is pleased to announce that our Technology Solutions Center is fully stocked and open for business. We have a large selection to meet your wants and needs. Some of the items we currently carry are a variety of corded and cordless phones, different brands of tablets such as Kindle Fires and Apple iPads and all the accessories for them, Telekin computers, Epson and HP printers and ink cartridges, Apple iPods and accessories, office supplies, wireless keyboards and mice, cellular phones and accessories, different types of media storage, cameras, headphones, power strips and surge protectors, and much, much more. You can also get your very own Valley swag. Our prices are reasonable and comparable to any other retail store. If there is something that you want or need that we do not currently carry, please let us know so that we can check into it for you. We accept all major credit cards, cash or check. Please feel free to stop by our office and check out our new and improved store for all of your technology and day-to-day business needs.
Okay, we are outside. We're going to be distressing the cutting board. What I'm going to do is, there are some rocks here with some nice edges on them. I'm going to kind of pile it up a little bit. And I'm going to start beating it on the rocks. I want it to look distressed on the sides as well. Because of course it can't look new. Now if you want it new, of course you don't have to do this. If you want it to look new. But in my books, I want it to look like it's been used, cared for, and loved. So we are going to works pretty nice. You can see that we've got some dents and stuff in here. Now, I brought out a nail. A good rusty nail. Nathan's letting me use his hammer. I'm going to hammer in a few holes here. Because again, don't want it to look too good. Want to give it that rusty old vibe. So I'm just going to go around a little bit. Make a few holes. Then I'm going to take the hammer. We're going to make a few more dents. Use the other side, that works just as good. You never get it to look loved too much. Okay. A few more times for good measure. And I'm going to stop because the board is cracking a little bit, which is exactly what I was looking for. Okay, now let's go inside and we'll work with it in there a little bit.
Pick your promo, sign up for high-speed internet, and get an iPad mini for only $60, plus get $60 in Valley Bucks. Or sign up for HD DVR from Valley Video and get $60 in Valley Bucks. Take advantage of these great promotions in honor of Valley being around for the last 60 years. Call 437-2615 today.
Valley Telecommunications, the home team advantage.
Okay, now that we are done distressing it, I'm going to take some sandpaper and I am going to lightly sand the board. Then after I'm done sanding it, we're going to color it, we're going to stain it that pecan stain. So what I'm going to use, I really like these sponges that have the sandpaper on them. They are so easy to work with. I also like that here it's angled. It's easier to get into things that you can't get into with a piece of paper, with the paper, sandpaper, or the emery board. So this works out really good. So I'm going to use the medium. Going to take off the shine because I don't want the shine on there. And I want to take it down a little bit so that it accepts the stain really well. This is a project that's going to have to be done in steps. The sides, the back we don't have to get that great, but we're just going to go over that a little bit because we'll want to stain that as well. So you can get the sides, the top, the bottom. Why I chose this board is because I like the rounded edges on it. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller, you can make it however you'd like. But I want it to be smooth when it's done to the touch. So we just went over it lightly. She's looking pretty good. Now before we stain or do anything like that, I'm going to take a clean paper towel. You can just dampen it just lightly if you'd wish. And then you're going to have to wait a few minutes to let it dry. Or you can just wipe it with a dry one. Okay, that looks pretty good. So now that we're done with that part, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some wax paper, lay it on my table because I'm looking to protect my table. And like I said before, We're going to have to do this in steps because we're going to stain it, then we're going to let it dry. We're going to stain the back, let it dry. Once it's dry, we're going to come back with the sandpaper again, and we're going to sand the edges and sand a couple places because we want it to look distressed. I don't want it to look nice. I don't want it to look new. I want it to be distressed. So that is where the gloves and the rag come in handy. You don't need to use the whole big rag, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a piece out here. Shake the can a little bit. You might have some settlings. Don't shake too hard. Shake a little bit. And we will open this up. Once I get it so far open, we'll put our gloves on, and then we will start staining. I like stained stuff. I kind of like the medium color. Some stuff you want to use, you maybe want to darken it more. I like that in-between color, the not so dark, the not so light, the in-between. And this pecan does that in-between. Once stain gets on your hands, it's terrible to try to take it off. I don't like to take it off. Also, you notice that I'm wearing an apron. It does save on your clothes, especially the stain part of it, but even while you're sanding and you're doing stuff like that, if you have an apron or an old shirt or something like that, you may want to use that. Want to be wearing that for the day that you're doing the work. Now when I stain, what I do is I just used a little bit because I want to see what it's going to look like on the wood. I don't want to use the whole stain and then not like it. So I'm going to rub it on. If I want it a little bit darker, I'm just going to do it again. Go over it, wipe it. Do the sides. I like the wood grain. And I love the smell of wood. I like when you take it and you sand it, the smell of wood. I love that. You want it, again, a little bit darker, just go over it. You don't want this too dark because remember, you're going to be putting words and stuff on here, so you want to be able to see the words really well. So rub on and take off the excess. Do this in a very well ventilated area. The fumes are quite interesting if you don't have a well ventilated area. And again, if you think you need to add a little bit more color, you can always go back. You can take your sandpaper, sand down a little bit. Put it on a little thicker. Some wood accepts it a lot better than other woods do. And it also depends on how far down you actually sanded it. Did you sand it down to wood? Does it still have a little bit of the varnish and stuff on it like it came from the factory? All things you want to take into consideration. Like I said, if you do have a well ventilated area, the stain takes really well. The fumes aren't so crazy. You can do the back side. And like I said, with the back side, we're going to let it dry real good. Once it's dried, we can start our next process. Go the way of the grain when you're doing this. Try to stay the same as what the grain is. If it's up and down, go up and down like this. If it's sideways, do it sideways. Go with the sideways part. Always try to stay with the grain when you're painting, especially if you're going to see the grain part of it. Stay with the grain, but especially when you're doing something like this, when you're staining. Staining or sanding, if all possible. I think this turned out to look pretty nice. And like I said, we will come back. This is a process with this. I think I have it stained to the color that I want it. Lay it on here. I'm going to close the stain up as good as we can. Try to get it as tight as we can. Now we are going to let this dry. It is a little wet, but it is not bad at all. Stain usually doesn't take very long for it to dry. And it will dry pretty nicely here, I see. Got a blotch there. We'll just kind of work that into the green. Now we'll set this to the side. The process that we did was I went online and I went onto Pinterest because I know that they have free printables that you can do. So I picked out the one that I like the best for Thanksgiving. And then what I did was I measured the board. I measured how far I wanted it on here, the width and the length of it. And then I took it into Word. I copied, pasted it into Microsoft Word, printed it a couple times until I came to the size that I wanted it. Once I got to the size that I wanted, you can't take it when it looks like the original. You have to do what's called inverting. You have to turn it around so when you look at it through a window, it looks exactly like this. So it went from this to this. So if you don't know how to do the inverting in whatever version of Windows that you have, I have Windows 10, so I Googled. And I looked up inverting, mirroring, something like that, and that will tell you the exact steps to get to. So this is what I started with, and like I said, with starting it, I decided how high I needed it, the length, and the width of what I needed, and I came up with this size. Then I went, Googled, inverted it. Once it was inverted, I printed it again. Once printed, I cut off as much white as I possibly could to get to this size, which will fit perfectly on this board, or to how I want it to fit onto this board. You use a laser jet printer. It will not work with an inkjet printer. It will only work with a laser jet printer. If this is something that you want and you would like this, just call Valley Telecommunications, tell me what size you need, and I can print it off our laser jet printer for you. So again, this was done on a laser jet printer. What we're going to need is, we are going to need what's called medium. And what medium does is, it's medium gel. We're using the matte gel. We're going to come back. We're going to put it on the board itself, smear it down. We're going to take a pencil and we're going to make the deals of how far it goes. So we can take the medium gel, we're going to use a sponge brush, we're going to brush it on here, then we're going to take it, we're going to lay this down, and then you have to wait for 12 hours for it to dry. Once it's dried, then you take a sponge, a wet sponge, you go over the top and you sponge it, you get it pretty nice and wet, because then you peel off the white and what's left are going to be the words.
Introducing our device installment program. Extra savings and extra flexibility. Call Valley today for all the details at 437-2615.
Okay, welcome back. Our board is dried, and now I'm going to show you how we are going to put the stain on the board. I've got it here. I'm going to measure just a little bit. I'm going to more so eyeball it than measure. I don't normally measure things. And maybe I need to, but I don't. I like to just kind of eyeball eyeball it, and I'm just going to make some little marks so that I know where I want to put the glue or the medium on. And then when I come back where I need to put this, and that way I have a general idea. And it doesn't matter if the medium goes over to the side too far, because we are going to come back with a little bit of sandpaper, and we can take that off once it's dried. So no worries. And I think that looks about right. And I can see right here where my marks are. I can see that pretty good. So I know I'm going to go along this line, and this line, all the way on up. So now I'm going to take the medium. The medium is really thick. It's not a runny glue. It's very thick. Or I guess I should call it a gel. Have a piece of paper handy. Now remember, when we do this, this is going to set, and it's going to set overnight so that it really, it will adhere and the ink will come onto this board. So it has to dry and it has to adhere to this. This is called I think it's B-R-Y-E. I call it a brie or a brie, I guess. And that is so, once we put this on here, we're going to take it and we're going to go like this to get all the bubbles and stuff out of it so that this can actually lay flat. We don't want any wrinkles, any bubbles. We want this laying flat. Okay. This is actually Liquitex. There is other stuff. Mod Podge makes a gel like this. There are several other companies out there that do as well. I'm going to show you what it looks like. It's like a glue. It's really, really thick. I'm going to take a small sponge brush. I like to have a lot of brushes on hand. I'm going to take it. We're going to put it on pretty thick, because like I said, once you go around and you go with your brie or whatever it's called, you can always take off the excess that smears out of it. And you will also find out that when you're using this kind of wood, it is going to really dry, and it's going to get pretty dry on there. So you're going to have to use quite a bit. So we're going to load it up pretty good. Remember, you want to be sure and cover the spot that you're going to be putting it on. I'm going to get it pretty hefty. And again, like I said, if it does smush out and you do get it and you take it and you roll it out, if it does get on the corners, no worries. We will take care of it. And like I've said quite a few times before, this is not perfect. I don't want it to be perfect. Because sometimes even the things that you think of to come out perfect and they come out a little kitty wonkus, those are my favorite anyway. Okay, so now we got this on. We are going to take our paper, which is inverted, our seine, and I am going to take it and place it in the corners because I can still see the corners of my paper where I had the paper before. Now I'm going to wipe along the side where I have the excess glue. Now I am going to take this. I'm going to get it good and tight here. And wipe out some of that glue that was left on the sides. And make sure you have all the bubbles out and all the wrinkles. You don't want any wrinkles or any bubbles on this. That's why it's also very important to wipe it down real good before you put it down, before you put the paper and stuff on here, and before you actually put your medium on here, so that if you have any any of the, from the sanding, if you have any of the sand, the different types of the wood, the filling part of it, if you have any of that, that you have that out. You have it off the board. And I think we are done. We are going to put this to the side now. We're going to let it work overnight. You can feel that it's wet underneath. We've got all our sides down. We've got everything on here. Looks like it's on pretty even. You're going to be able to tell, you're going to be able to see some of the, when we went through and we distressed it, you're going to be able to see some of the distress marks through here, and that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. So now we're going to let it set, and we're going to let it dry. We're going to let it dry overnight, and when it is all done, we'll come back with a sponge with cool water, and we'll just take it over the top, and I will show you how it turns out.
Valley Telecommunications, the home team advantage.
Okay, our paper is cured and it is on. It is dry. When you feel it dry to the touch, what you do is let it dry at least 12 hours overnight, the project. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take some water. What I use is I use cool water, not cold water, cool water, and just either a sponge if you have one available, or what I'm using is just a cotton washcloth or a cotton dish towel, and soak it pretty good in the water. And then we're just going to dab it around because we want to remove the paper. So we want to get the paper wet and we want to remove it. So we're just going to dab, go up and down. Let the paper soak. Want it to soak in. Then once you see that you can rub the paper off, we're going to start rubbing it off. Put this underneath. Test it, see if it's, as you can see, it's starting to rub. You want to rub it off, and in areas that you can't get it to rub off, we're going to wet knit some more. You can see the letters and stuff starting to come through. Keep going along with that. Going to have to re-wet it a little bit. Try to get as much off as you can. Then what I do is once I get the main part off, I'm going to let it set for a little bit, and then I'm going to go after it again, dispose of this stuff that we've taken off, re-wetting some of the spots again. It's just all a process that you go through. Once you're done with it, it'll turn out perfect. Now, when you do this, you don't want to use anything abrasive. And again, you don't, if you're going to stain your board, you don't want your board too dark because you want the letters to show up nicely. You may have some lettering that kind of blends into the board. So you kind of have to watch all that stuff when you're preparing the wood and you're looking at what kind of wood you want to use. Okay, now you can see most of it has come through, but it still has quite a bit of it on there, quite a bit of the white. We don't want the white part of it on. So what we're going to do to clean it off, and then we're going to come back with it one more time before we let it dry for a little bit. And then while that part is drying, we can do a little bit of sanding on it to kind of buff it up a little bit, because again, we don't want it to look new. want it to look more like my grandma's. Like my grandma's cutting board that's been used and loved quite a bit. I was fortunate enough to grow up with both of my grandmas. And I did get to watch them. They taught me many things. Taught me to cook, taught me to can, taught me many, many things, as well as my mom. But these are some of the things that I do remember growing up with them, was their old cutting boards, the stuff that they used that nowadays we take for granted. I did try this on a board that was a lighter board, wasn't quite as thick. If you use a lot of water, it's going to buckle a little bit on you. But once it dries, it should be just fine. Okay, now we're going to let that set a little bit. We're going to come back and wipe off some more. If you scratch and you do too much to get it off, you're going to scratch off the lettering. So we need to be careful with doing that. But we do want to get most of the white off of it. I use my fingernail in a few spots. Which when we're done, I'm going to show you how to make it look like it hasn't been, like it's been used. And there are certain places where the lettering didn't come through so good, or maybe where it looks a little faded, but that's exactly what we're looking for. I'm looking for that. Then once you let it dry a little bit, you can come back with the water and actually take off some more of the white pieces of it. It's a project that you're going to do, and you might walk away from it for a little bit, come back to it again. One of those kinds of projects. Okay, so right now we're going to set this to the side. We're going to get out, again, our sandpaper. We're going to sand the edges and the corners a little bit. Because remember, it is worn. So I am going to get out a little piece of wax paper, sip of coffee. And I am going to take the medium. Now I'm just going to sand around it because this is wet yet, and I don't want to get the pieces of the wood on here. So I'm just going to turn it over and sand it on certain spots. Hold it and sand it. And try not to get any of the wood stuff, the wood fillings in there. And again, sanding it in the places that you want to sand it, it's all your choice. You don't have to sand it in the places I am. I try to find out where the places is that it's going to be used a lot. And that's what I kind of want to wear down. Now, if you really want to go with the wear look, what you could do is take darker stain and darken these spots right here. Is what you could do if you really wanted it to look roughed up. This wood is a nice hardwood. What I'm going to do on the top here is I'm going to sand it a little. Have it ready for round 2. But what we're going to do before we do that is there's a hole up in top here that you can actually use for the hanging part of it. And what I'm going to use, you can use a shoelace like I said earlier in the show. You could use a shoelace, you could use a piece of leather. That would really be cool. Beans, I don't have any of that right now. What I'm going to do is I am going to use twine. And I'll cut it. I'll have to decide where I want to, if I'm going to hang it or if I'm just going to set it as a decoration. Cut this off. And I'm going to put it through here. There is different weights of twine. There's different kinds of twine. There's a heavier twine, a lighter twine. I just chose to actually use a lighter twine. It's the same length. Tie it in a knot. Plus it'll give it a little bit of a decoration, even if you're just setting it down, it'll give it a different look if you're setting it around. So there's the twine we're just going to leave hang. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter, you can put something on the end of it if you wish. You could put like a tag or something on there, a small tag, decorate it up however you wish. Now you can see that this is still kind of faded and we want the letters to come out a little bit more. So now, feels like it's fairly dry. I am going to go in with my finger and I'm just going to go back and forth a bit. It's a little on the dry side, it's a little on the wet side yet. I'm just going to go back and forth with my finger because it's still a little damp. And I want to get some more of that paper, that white looking paper off. The places where it isn't damp enough yet, we're going to come back with the rag. Actually, the finger works the best because its friction is what takes it off. And you may have to do this more than once, maybe more than twice, depending on how you want it, how you like it. I again like it worn looking. Some of the lettering might come off depending on how hard you're rubbing, what you're looking for. Be a little more gentle. Starting to take shape pretty nicely. It's getting darker as I come along. I can see some of the colors kind of blended in with the wood a little bit. But a lot of this is all just trial and error. A lot of the things that we do on the show I've not tried before. I do them while we're doing the show. So I'm kind of taking a little bit of a risk. This is how this turned out. And again, like I said, you can go back and forth. There's some white spots and stuff, but the white spots that are on here is actually where the wood itself was where we roughed it up. So the white spots are mostly in there. There is some shadowing and stuff on here. If you like it that way, you most certainly can leave it that way. If you do not, you can work with it some more, weten it down a little bit more, trying to get more of the white background from the paper off. You can see there's some here on this. So what I'm going to do now is, looks pretty good. I may not even go across it, but what I would do is, if this would be really dark yet, I would take my sand brush, and I would just go over it lightly to dull it, because I don't want the lettering to look so good. I want it to look a little dull. Again, it's been used. So here is our project. This is one of the projects that we've done for Thanksgiving. Come back next time and join us for Just Crafting Around. If you're a crafter and you wish to be on the show, please give us a call at 437-2615 and ask for Kelly or Lisa. If you'd like to be a guest, we'd be more than willing to have you. Thank you. See you next time.